fully known what was going on there. It's like, this, I don't know. It just seems odd.
It does. It's established, yes, she's a whale lover.
Yes, they need to figure out a way for them to have another encounter.
Yeah, so she's there, she's annoyed.
She's annoyed through most of this film.
Understandably. He's not being a great guy.
This is true.
And then we meet Al Swain, the head of the Fishermen's Union, who is played by Scott Walker, not a name I'm familiar with. But he's another like great grizzled fisherman guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like not happy about Nolan because if there's an orca about, that scares the fish off. And
right.
The whole town is kind of superstitious about the presence of orcas anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And which this film kind of becomes like a Wicker Man scenario as it progresses. Like the whole town kind of ganging up against Nolan and his crew, these outsiders.
Yeah. Well, he's the reason. Like this animal is tormenting their village.
Yeah. And
so they're like, well, this is your fault. Take care of this.
And this is very much a fishing town. They seem to thrive upon it. And we also meet Jacob Umalak, played by Will Sampson, who is Chief from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes.
Instantly recognisable.
My dear boy Bromden. I love him.
So he's another teacher, I believe. He's who also warns Nolan of the mythology of the whale, and he becomes more important later on in the film.
Yes.
But they just establish him here, so that's good. And that the next day, I think, the orca comes into town and punches holes in the bottom of a bunch of boats.
Mm-hmm. I was dying for like a here's Johnny moment. Like when he actually gets into the bottom, I was like, why don't we have a shot of that? And it occurred to me it's because The Shining doesn't come out for another couple of years. I was like, they're not going to make that reference.
That's a shame.
I know, I'm telling you.
But
that would have been great.
It leaves the Bumpo unscathed. Apparently that's part of the whale's plan.
Mm-hmm.
I love that the whale has a plan. So much.
Absolutely
the whale has a
plan.
So that it'll entice Nolan to come out and face him on the sea. Which, yes, great. Excellent.
See, if we make everybody else hate him, maybe they'll just throw him into the water, and then he can just have his lunch.
Yeah. It takes out two boats. One of them starts sinking, so a guy jumps into it and has to jump back out again. I love it's the panic of the situation. I can see myself doing that kind of thing.
Yes.
So it's all well done. Lots of good extra work going on. And so the town becomes more against them, and Nolan has a plan of his own. He makes a scarecrow of himself because Rachel tells him about the whales have memories and vengeance and recognize people, and the whale saw him on the boat.
He makes the scarecrow. I'm like, I can't. It's like this little Nolan at the bottom of the dock.
Yeah, so he makes a little scarecrow. He plans to shoot it in the eye. That was his original plan, was to shoot it in both eyes, and then he realised no, he wants to look it in the eye and apologise.
Yes.
And hope that the whale forgives him.
Yes, because the whale understands our language.
Well, I mean, as far as we're told earlier, our language to the whale is simplistic.
Yes. Redundant.
Yes. So this plan doesn't work. Shockingly.
I know. I was really surprised.
Because whilst they've made the scarecrow, and then Nolan and Rachel are having a chat in a tent. This is when we find out Nolan's tragic backstory, where his wife was pregnant, and they were both, and she and the unborn child were killed by a drunk driver, just like he did to the whale's mate.
Just like he did. Oh,
we're not so different, you and I.
Yes. It's just like, what? He says that wonderful line, is, I understand what the whale is feeling. And you think, okay, someone, strung up your wife, and then you find out, oh, they actually really went deep on this.
Did they plan to sell your wife to a circus?
Oh, no. It's like they really do underscore that awful situation with the whale baby. It's just, so terrible.
You underscore, speaking of score, fantastic score in this film. Ennio Morricone.
Well, yes.
Excellent score.
Classy film, remember?
Yeah. It's, it's
only the best.
Should be better regarded than it is. Why do you think this film's not well regarded? What is it about it?
I think it's just, I don't know, frankly. I think it's because it was too close. I think people see Jaws as being so exceptional, because it is, that just when you try and do it again, it just doesn't work. And so I think people just have that sour taste in their mouth.
That's fair. I think maybe it's the combination of this harrowing first part of the film and then kind of a silly middle section with the whale plan and the whale setting fires. The parts don't really gel together. And then like the third act
that gets a little boring.
Different.
It's like, what is happening? You're right.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So yeah, it's all kind of bits that these could work well if the rest of the film was like this bit of the film, but the rest of the film is a different film.
It tries 3 different ways.
Yeah. So whilst they're having their little heart to heart, the whale is off having some fun. As we've already mentioned, it attacks a fuel line, makes a spills a bunch of fuel.
Finds the shack with the lantern.
Breaks the supports on that, so it falls down.
Yes.
Makes a fire. Fire goes all the way inland. This whale. This is the most impressive thing a whale has ever done. It makes a oil refinery explode.
Yes.
That is inland. It's not like on the seawall. It is like a mile
way up a hill.
It's uphill. How much of this was intentional?
This is true. All of it. This is a very smart whale.
How much does it understand about our way of life?
He understood that. He understood the whole workings of the pipes. He knew which pipes to go after. Like you said earlier, he knew which shack to hit to get the lantern. And I'm telling you, he knew what his angles were. So as he breached and did those jumps, he could get the best lighting from the glow of the fire.
I mean, I have to agree. It does so many victory jumps. You can kind of tell that these victory jumps were maybe filmed elsewhere.
No.
Maybe with a whale in captivity that had been trained to do these kind of things and then poorly superimposed over the top.
Well,
maybe.
Yes.
It's a little translucent.
Maybe we should be, a little, I guess we should be realistic about it, but,
But, it's a film from 1977.
Yes.
No other big special effects heavy films came out that year, so we can't talk about anything.
There's nothing to compare it with.
No groundbreaking science fiction special effects films came out in 1977. That'd be ridiculous.
No, not that. I mean, I know Orca has had a number of different trilogies followed, so I mean, that's got to be the one we're talking about, right?
It's absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. You have a new Orca.
1977.
Orca Strikes Back.
Really, it was a very boring year.
Return of the Orca. Phantom Orca. Attack of the Clone Orcas. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
that was that funeral procession. Those were the clone orcas.
Yes, Attack of the Orcas.
Lining up in procession.
The last Orca. So they have the massive explosion.
I'm sorry, I can't get it together now.
That's no moon. It's an orca.
Okay. Serious movie.
So after these victory laps, Al Swain threatens Nolan and his crew. Basically, tells them to get out. They're fixing his shit. The Bumpo still needs repairs, so like they get to fixing it quick sharp so they can get out of town. Basically. Mm-hmm. Which good. And then Nolan phones up Rachel in the middle of the night. Their relationship is still spiraling all over the place. Just a love hate.
It's really very sad. Very, very soap opera-ish.
Yeah, he tells her he's going after the whale. She tells him not to, and he tells him to treat it like it's a human. And if a human was in the throes of grief, would you give it everything it wanted? Because apparently the whale wants him to come out and fight. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's some kind of message to be had in here. I'm not 100% sure what the film's trying to say about mental health or.
I think there's a deep obsession with a sea creature larger than him, perhaps. Maybe he's the orca's white whale.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's a turnaround.
It could be. So he's still going to go out after it anyway. and he said, he wants Paul and Annie to get out of town, I think. So he sends Paul to go and get some petrol, but the town won't sell them any petrol. The town won't let them get out, won't let them leave.
There's no air. You cannot have any air. Yeah. We're out.
No air, no petrol. No one will let you on a train or anything. You're stuck in town forever until you sort out the whale problem.
Yes.
So incredible. I hadn't even I hadn't thought that would be an option. This film going that like the town would make them fight the whale.
Yes.
Which is kind of the opposite of Jaws, where the town is more like, it's open the beaches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, everything's great. Everybody's having a wonderful time.
So whilst
here the monster's message is clear.
So whilst Paul's out trying to get some petrol and Nolan is tinkering it in his shack, they leave Annie alone. Annie was injured in the opening attack, in the first encounter with the whale, and she has a leg in a full cast.
Correct.
So she's pouring herself a glass of wine, and she can hear something. It's almost like a slasher film. Like she can hear there's someone out in the woods, but it's nothing. So she continues to pour the wine, and then she hears it again. It's whale song that shatters her wine glass. Fantastic.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's classic because you look at this thing, she sets it down on the table, and again, speaking as someone, living in 2022, watching a movie from 1977, of course you look and expect the T-Rex water ripples.
Yes.
From 1993 in Jurassic Park. So
you do get them.
You do get them, but I mean, again, the curse of seeing films that came after and thinking, oh, this very iconic moment, and oh, wait, that's not this film.
But is it possible that as Orca took homage from Jaws, did Spielberg return the favor and take inspiration from Orca?
From Orca? I have to go back and look now.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, Jurassic World does have that wonderful moment where that giant prehistoric sea dinosaur comes up and eats.
Yeah.
See, you know the words. I loved it.
Well,
I do not.
That's my franchise, is the Jurassic franchise.
Oh, I cackled like a fool through that movie. I loved it so much.
Well, and we've talked about many times how Jurassic World is essentially a remake of Deep Blue Sea, which is itself a remake of Jurassic Park. So, yeah. It's
a perfect circle.
It's a perfect circle. It's kind of egg-shaped. So Annie's left alone, and her wine glass shatters, and the shark starts to take out supports on their house, which is over the edge of a cliff. Never build a house here. Don't do that.
No.
It's bad. This can happen. And so the house is like at a 45-degree angle. She's at the bottom of it. Nolan.
This is that traumatizing scene from 8th grade.
Okay, do you want to go through it? Why is this one traumatizing?
I mean, so I remember sitting in the back left corner of the classroom and watching this on the TV at the front, and I remember the house being sideways. And see, this is what's interesting, because I remember a much wider angle than what it turns out to be. I remember the entire wall of the house being gone, which it's not. It's really only like approximately an orca-shaped hole.
Just about, yeah.
Where she can kind of slide out. And so she's sort of dangling a bit. And I remember the orca coming all the way up and like chomping her bottom half off. It's not actually what happens. The orca comes up, and it's sort of creatively edited, where we discover after the orca has gone back into the water, and Annie has sort of let out a little bit of a squeak of a scream. Like, I would be screaming much louder and longer than she did. Maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was just because she died instantly. But the orca comes up, bites off her leg.
The one in the cast, yeah.
The one in the cast, of course.
The wrong leg to take, from the orca's perspective.
You would think, if this orca was so smart, it should have taken the other leg. But,
This one has a hard shell on it.
Blinded by rage, this orca. Went after the white part. And yeah, so it's watching it again. It's just like, oh, yeah, that's right. It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre situation where you remember it being bloodier than it actually is. It's the power of suggestion and how your memory in a traumatized situation adds things that aren't actually there.
I think it's a fantastic scene.
Yes.
I thought she died, but apparently she does survive.
And this is what I'm saying.
Later in the film, Nolan said, she dies in the scene. She has died. Later, some paramedics basically walk past her. So